Seeing initially at 777 Washington Road, and then we went to 7 Parlin Drive, and we've been at the site we are now, 3276 Washington Road, since September of 2014.
And as the clinical supervisor, what does that mean? What do you do?
I am responsible for the clinic as a whole, staffing, the management of the clinic, its supplies, its way it functions, and how we schedule and what we do. I answer to our corporate office,
Good. And would it be fair to say you're thoroughly?
our corporate office.
I'm trying to share this one, you share that one.
Okay,
Between the two of us, we'll get it on the record. So would it be fair to say you know the operation of this facility?
yes.
Okay. So what are the services that you provide at the location?
We provide physical therapy and occupational therapy.
And what's, I asked you this
All right.
earlier.
So
what's
the difference, occupational therapy tends to deal with the upper quarter, mostly elbow to hand. We have a certified hand occupational therapist. So any issues with the hand problem and elbow, they treat. The physical therapy aspects we treat, I always say we treat whatever comes through the door, usually movement issues, more orthopedic, but also neurological, Parkinson's, strokes, MS, as well as if you broke your arm or you broke your leg or you've had surgery, rotator cuff, total joints, all that we treat in spinal issues. So we treat the gamut of what comes through. What I like to say is we treat the community.
Good. Do we have enough parking?
No.
Okay, so let's go into the details of that. What are the hours of operation of the facility?
The hours of operation are 7 in the morning till about 8:30 at night, Monday through Friday. There's varying levels of staffing during those hours, but that's where we're open. We are not, we're not open on the weekends.
Okay, and would you break down for the board how many employees you have of every category?
Okay, I have 7 full-time physical therapists. I have the equivalent of 1.5 occupational therapists. I have front office staff. I have 4 full-time office staff, and I have 3 night front desk staff, and I have 11 aides who help support, you know, they bus the clinic, they do the laundry, they bring patients back and forth, they do that.
And the aides are part-time?
The aides are part-time.
All right, so key question, I think the planner asked for it in his memo. Worst case scenario, what's the maximum number of employees that are working on the site?
At one time, probably 16.
Okay, and where do you ask them to park?
We park off-site. Staff does not park on-site
And you do that because?
because there's not enough parking. And we've been doing that for years.
Right, and we really don't want to be irritating our neighbors, so hopefully we can do more parking, maybe get a couple of employees on there. But the big problem is patients.
The biggest problem is that due to patient flow, many wait to park. Sometimes they call in to say, there's no parking here. When is someone leaving? So it's a flow issue. And these people not everybody walks so well. And you want to be able to provide a parking lot that they can manage and come in and out of correctly. So it's not unusual. Mondays are probably our busiest day because I have the most staff on, that patients will call in and say, you know, I can't, there's no parking. When is someone leaving? And that can 4 or 5 calls can go to my front office staff. They come to back clinic, who's going to be ready to leave soon? I mean, it's a juggle. And we should not add to the stress of these patients coming in. It should not be like this. And we've been dealing with this for a while. I've had patients say, I'm going to go to a different clinic because I like my care here, but it's just too stressful to come. We try to have them schedule it slower times, but there's not as many slower times. So it's been a problem in existence for years. We try to do the best we can.
All right, let's get a big issue off the table. And that big issue is this about expanding what you're doing there?
No, it's about dealing with a solution or a problem to our parking. We are not expanding. We're just trying to deal with a problem that has been in existence for years of parking. Not
Actually,
enough parking,
almost since you opened, correct?
almost since we opened.
Right. So
That's when I found out about, you know, that we were really short.
yeah, tangential issue for the Board of Adjustment and the town council is you might want to look at the parking standard for physical therapy. Is there any kind of successful parking standard may need to be changed? So you're successful, you're maxed out pretty much?
yeah.
Okay, tell them a little bit more about the calling that you get. Is there a spot open? Tell us how that works. When is it the worst? How many times a day do you get it?
On Mondays, we might get it 5 or 6 times in a day. Okay, it's the worst probably by 10:30, 11 to 3:30, 4 in the afternoon. And what happens is it delays someone coming in. So if you're 15 minutes late to your session and you're there for an hour, you're into the next session. And so it becomes a domino effect. So Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursday, and Friday from 11 to about 3 can be pretty dicey in the clinic. Evenings flow a little bit differently, though, as he saw our parking, which he had not seen, our parking lot was full this evening. And I have a therapist in Italy on vacation, so I'm down 1 staffed person, and we were still full. We just want to be able to provide the service and the ease of someone getting care. So it happens every day. If I had the slow time, it would probably be 7 in the morning because I'm the only therapist on. Okay, other than that, we get to be busy.
So do you have any deliveries at the site?
We have deliveries from FedEx and UPS. Ordering usually happens for the physical therapy aspect of the clinic 1 week, occupational another week, and for the front office another week. So it kind of is staggered, but we do get deliveries.
Okay, and you say you get deliveries, 5 a day, 3 a week? What's the rate at which they come in?
You know, like 1 or 2 a week.
Okay.
That's really how, it's not, unless it was a big order. I've had equipment delivered, but that happens like once a year as the budget goes. But other than that, and that's a bigger thing. Other than that, it's like a couple times in a week.
Okay, and these are box trucks, they're not
They're not
tractor
big trucks,
trailers?
yes,
Right,
no.
right. And you're receiving boxes of supplies?
Yes.
correct? Okay, and how about the garbage?
So we utilize the towns, we have 4 garbage cans and we utilize the town's garbage. Okay, we've had that from the get-go because we found that we couldn't have a dumpster. It was just the area that they put in for our dumpster was just not big enough. And to have a truck come in to deal with a dumpster, you were at risk for hitting both buildings. That roadway is very narrow. So we use the town, which thank you very much. But that's what we use. So we have 4 garbage cans there in a setting.
Okay, and they're in an enclosed
Closed
area?
thing that would have held a dumpster, but it could barely hold that. It was not big enough.
Okay. I think that's what we wanted to talk about. Oh, how about in the case of deliveries, how about senior citizens?
Oh, obviously the senior bus comes to us. The Middlesex County bus will come to us. And they come in and they're dropping patients off periodically and then obviously picking them up. So that happens daily.
In your opinion, if the board is kind enough to grant you the 33 spaces, your parking problems are over?
I would be like so happy. I can't even tell you, I'd be so happy. Just because it's just so stressful for patients who are coming in. It's just stressful for them. And it adds to somebody's day that doesn't need to be. And I hear the complaints all the time. So I would just really be happy. And I think the patients would be ecstatic.
Great. Ms. Dunn is available for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Dunn?
So if the 33 spaces are given, do you see your garbage needs changing? Your the amount of patients you're able to see is obviously not increasing, it's just being more accommodated. Do you see a dumpster now being put on site if you're given more space, or will you continue to utilize the town?
I think because we're in existing with that garbage now, and the spaces are just going to make what we have, the patient flow better and reduce that. I don't anticipate that that's changing. Plus, economically, the taxes that the company pays, they were getting garbage. They were probably really happy that they didn't have to pay for a dumpster pickup. So I don't anticipate that changing at all.
Ms. Dunn, it seems that when you initially got approval for this site, your operations were smaller than they are today. Is that accurate?
Yes, but we still had trouble initially parking. It's why, because I was putting staff in the parking lot. as well as patients. We initially had trouble, and then they were parking, and our neighbor was not necessarily happy. They were parking by the bakery. Now, it was great that they could go into the bakery and help them, but ultimately, yes, are we busier than we were then? Yes. But we've been this level for a while now.
But
The
it-
only thing is, you're
No,
asking,
but initially, I think you had 3 or 4 professionals, and now you have, I think you said 8 that are gonna, in the facility at
well,
any
yes,
single
I
time?
came with 4 physical therapists and 1 full-time OT. So I actually came with 5.
Okay.
Okay, and I had 3 front office staff people at the time. So we've grown, but the facility itself, if you've ever come, we're kind of a barn, like it has the ability to have that house more people. But I've had the problem with parking since very shortly after that. I had to.
Very shortly after the
Initial thing where we had to find parking for staff because the patient flow was not right. In fact, I think I left 7 Pearland Drive, which is where we were, that freestanding building. I left more parking there. So when we came there, I was immediately addressing a problem. And then nobody could park because there's permit parking across the way, and no one could park anywhere. So it was troubling.
So you had trouble with parking almost immediately when you initially moved from Parlin Drive to Johnson's Lane / Washington. In terms of further business growth, are we going to be back here in 2 years saying you need more park? Are you planning on expanding the business and adding more therapists so that your parking needs are going to keep increasing?
Not that I know of at the moment, okay? Not that I know of at the moment. It's, at some point, there's more competition in town. We have Kessler down the road. There's different things like that. So it's hard to know whether we would have more growth or need more parking.
Well, the real question is, are you gonna add more physical
The therapy.
therapists? Because they're the key to the kingdom in terms of customers. And when I toured the facility, it looked like all of the possible rooms that you could have for therapists have been built into the walls.
Yeah, we have that, and we have tables. And so would I need a new building? I'd have to move the site. I don't anticipate more parking. I just need a different building.
You're at capacity now, you think, in terms of staff?
I think so. I
Okay.
believe so. I don't anticipate that we would need a different building.
And you think you're going to have enough room for staff and patients, or is staff
I
still going to
don't-
have to go off-site?
I think there'll be a certain amount of staff off-site.
Okay.
I just don't, the space, it was nice that when the school left, the superhero school left and went to the Goddard School, that's the first one. When they left, we were like, oh, that's great, because then we could maybe, it seemed a solution to our troubles,
Where's the staff parking now?
They're parking across from Buddy's Tavern.
Okay.
Okay, we rent space from them.
Are they parking in the Royal Bakery area? Okay.
No,
And how much staff do you think you're going to need to park off-site even with the new spots?
initially, what I will do is I will keep all staff off-site to see what we look like. Because the purpose of this parking growth is the fact that we need to service our patients better. So the answer to that is right now, the plan would be to keep all staff off-site. And if we start to see that we have the availability to have some staff parking, it would have to be signed. But part of me is we have such a big problem that I just want to be able to solve what we have. And so there's no plan at the moment to bring staff back on at all.
And you're going to have to obviously demolish the building next door. Is there a plan for that? Are you,
Our engineer.
Okay. gotcha. Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me just clarify for the board the parking requirements, because what we're hearing is a little different than what was presented. The original approval proposed 3 professionals. The ordinance requires 5 spaces for a professional, which was 15 spaces. You had 16. That's why you met the requirements. What we're hearing now is that you've got 8 professionals, which means you need 40 spaces. The application says you still need 15, but the reality is you need 40 to meet the requirements of your staffing. I think that's what you're saying. You've got 8 professionals, 5 spaces per professional. That's 40 spaces that are required, not 15 as it's presented.
And I have no problem with that interpretation, but we do need it now. If we get-
That's correct. We raised,
Right at the-
in our report, we'll get to it later, but in our report, we raised questions as to why you needed that. When you say you only need 15 spaces based on the ordinance, why do you need an additional 33? Now we're hearing why, that you've got 8 professionals, so you actually need 40 as opposed to 15. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because it wasn't clear on the documents provided, but you clarified the reason for it.
Any other questions?
I do, Chair. If parking were an issue, what's the capacity you could have at any one time in your building for patient-wise?
If parking is an issue,
If parking was no issue and therapists weren't, like what, how many?
well, I only have so many, there's only so many tables and only so many.
Right,
rooms.
that's what I'm
So I
wondering.
have 5 closed treatment rooms. I have 7 tables in the gym, open in the gym, that kind of fluctuate in and out for people. And I have 1 low mat. And then I have an OT area that we has a bar, not servicing like Cagney's did, but a bar that so I can have 2 OTs on at one time. So there's a table for an OT as well as a bar that the people consider at high stools. So if everyone is on a table, you're talking 5, 7, 12, couple people in chairs. You might have 18 patients in at a time.
Okay.
And then there could be on exercise equipment, things like that.
Just curious, is there a maximum amount of therapists that you're allowed to employ in that facility with the Department of Health, or is there under your existing license?
I don't know the answer to that, is whether there's a maximum. I don't know. As far as therapists go, we are, how we schedule is how we've always scheduled through all the years. We're scheduling, maybe 2 people for a therapist, 2 people on the hour, maybe 1 on the half hour. And that's kind of how we schedule it. Is there a maximum? Do I want one therapist seeing 5 patients in that hour? No, that's cruddy care.
So you're
That's not what we-
saying, to the best of your
No,
knowledge,
it's where usually,
the capacity is size of the facility and the number of
Yes.
people, and you believe you're at your max.
yes.
The answer is we don't know if there is a statewide regulation or what.
The only thing I do know is industry-wide, if you had a therapist and they had 2 patients in the hour, there are no assists. That's the industry standard, and that's the only one I'm aware of.
What do you mean by no
No assists, no aides or anything else to help that would pick up or clean up a clinic. So, therefore, when we can schedule 3, there's an aide on for that person to be able to, wipe down the table, bring over a weight, do the laundry, that kind of deal. When we went, when we were open through COVID, we never closed, but I reduced staff. There were no aides. There was not front desk. There was just 3 therapists. That's it. So that's all I know about industry standard.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Dunn.
Thank you. Our second witness, Mr. Chairman, is Bill Lane, our licensed PE. I'd ask that he come forward and be sworn so that he can give testimony.
Good evening, Mr. Lane.
Good evening. Sir, if you can state your name, spell your last name. Your professional address. William Lane, Lane, and it's 261 Cleveland Avenue, Highland Park, New Jersey. Yes,
Just formally, by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
Menlo Engineering, I've been with them for 38 years.
A newbie. And have you ever been previously accepted as a PE before this board?
Yes, and actually, just like you, I testified for this application back in
All
2011.
right, have your credentials deteriorated in any way?
No,
Would you like a 30-second summary or
30 seconds. just-
30 seconds, the short version?
yeah, I've been with Menlo for 38 years. I'm licensed in the state of New Jersey for 26 years. I've probably testified in front of 100 boards throughout New Jersey, plenty of times in Sayreville. I think the last one was 5 years ago with the DaVita application. Been designing sites like this for, like I said, 38 years.
Great. Any questions regarding Mr. Lane's qualifications? No? Okay, we accept your qualifications.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not going to get in your way. I'd appreciate if you'd, through exhibits,
Yeah.
describe to the board the features of the project before them, parking, circulation, landscaping, stormwater, lighting, the whole thing.
After Mr. Lane, we'll just refer to the first exhibit as A1 and carry it through if you change boards.
Okay. Yeah, this will be A1. This is called Twin Borough Physical Therapy. It's the existing conditions exhibit, and it's dated August 2nd, 2023. Okay. Yeah, what this shows is the site. It's an aerial and the property and the surrounding areas. And we've got Washington Road to the north, Johnson's Lane to the east. We got the school. I'm sorry. The school's to the east, Johnson Lane's to the west. And then to the south, we have an existing residence along with the abandoned commercial building. What we show on site is over by the corner of Johnson's Lane and Washington Road is the existing physical therapy building, which is about 4,200 square feet. Just off to the side, coming in off of Washington Road, we have a two-way driveway, which is 24 feet. That leads to the existing 16-car parking lot. And back in the corner, we have our existing dumpster pad. On lot 1.02, which the applicant just purchased, is the approximately 2,000 square foot daycare building that they're looking to remove. There's a common one-way driveway that goes onto Johnson's Lane, and further down to the south is a second driveway that comes in around the building. And they have approximately 12 striped spaces out and around the building. A2 is the overall plan exhibit, and again, that's. Oh, okay. This one's A1. Okay, and also this one's dated August 2nd, 2023. And what this shows is the site plan over on an aerial, and it's colored with the landscaping that's proposed. And what this shows is the physical therapy buildings remaining, no changes there. The existing parking lot is to remain the same. And additionally, what we're doing is on lot 1.02 that used to be the daycare, that's being removed. And then we're proposing 33 new parking spaces. We have 8 along the southerly property line. We have 14 along the middle, and then another 11 on the southern side. What we show is 6 new trees in and around the parking lot. There's 36 shrubs along the southerly property, give it the buffer to the neighbor. And that's pretty much what we're looking to do. The building stays the same, all the utilities stay the same. There's no new stormwater management. What we did was we followed what was being done before, where water flows off to the south, just like it does off the existing parking lot. And then there's a ridge line, and that the remainder goes to Johnson's Lane. The impervious coverage increase is only about 850 square feet. So there's really no need for any stormwater detention on there. Or we're proposing 3 new light poles with LED fixtures. They'll be 20.5 feet high. And that's pretty much what we're proposing on for that site. Yeah, we have the two-way driveway off of Washington. That's the
Sure.
existing, that's to remain. We're keeping the common one-way driveway off of Johnson's Lane that's straddles both properties. And then off on the southern side, there used to be an existing driveway that went out to Johnson's Lane that was further to the south. We're moving it over because we're putting in 90-degree parking, so that'll be a two-way.
In terms of the generic description of the site, is there anything else you want to add?
No, that's pretty much it.
Mr. Chairman, would be appropriate to respond to the professionals' memorandums.
Yes, please.
Okay. So come on back over here if you don't mind. And why don't we start with Mr. Cornell's memo? Have you had a chance to review the memo prepared by J. Cornell, PE, to the Borough of Sayreville Planning Board dated August 2nd, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. With respect to that memo, page 1 is I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't say that. It refers to the attached memo, but I think page 1 and page 2 are just generic, unless somebody wants to. Yeah, so we'll go to the actual detailed memo So site grading and general comments. There is a list in number 1 of the governmental approvals necessary to implement the project. And maybe we can go through this and see where they stand. The Middlesex County Planning Board approval.
We have conditional approval with them.
All right, the Borough of Saraville soil erosion certification.
That will apply for once we get approval.
Okay. The NJDEP Division of Water Quality RFA.
I believe we don't need that because we're under an acre of disturbance.
Okay. The Borough of Saraville tree removal permit.
Yeah, that and the fill placement we'll have to apply for before, prior to construction.
Right, and you do know if you can't put the trees that are necessary under the ordinance, there's a $250 per tree cost. Right, and our applicant is aware of that as well,
Yes, he's willing to make the contribution if needed.
if need be.
Yeah.
And then the Borough of Saraville fill replacement permit.
Same thing we'll apply for prior to construction.
Okay, and of course, the reason why we're saying we're going to apply is that you don't apply until you know that the board is happy with the plan. But it would be conditions of approval, and that means that we have to, before we can go any further, we have to get those approvals, correct?
Correct.
And we're agreeing to do so. All right, number 2, in accordance with the borough ordinance, no parking areas shall be constructed within 5 feet of a property line. The proposed parking space along the western property line do not comply with this requirement, and we're asking for a waiver. Now, with regard to that, is that an existing condition with regard to the property we currently own?
Yes, currently the existing parking lot for the physical therapy is about 1 foot off the property line. So in order to maintain the driveway access that comes through, we're looking to continue that also along that southerly property line.
Okay. Number 3, the proposed parking space along the western lot line are 1 foot from the property line. Accordingly, concrete wheel stops should be provided for these parking spaces in order to prevent vehicle overhang into the adjacent property and damage to the existing chain link fence along the property line. Do we agree to that as a condition?
Yes.
Okay. Number 4, in accordance with the borough ordinance, 2-way driveways for non-residential uses should be a minimum of 30 feet in width. The width of the proposed site driveways do not comply with this requirement. The applicant is requesting a waiver. Again, with regard to the lot that currently exists, this is an existing condition.
Yes, there's a 24-foot wide driveway that comes out of a Washington Road, continues through the site. So we're looking to continue that through the new parking lot and out into Johnson's Lane.
Okay. Number 5, deed of lot consolidation should be filed for the project. The new block and lot numbers should be obtained from the borough tax assessor. We've discussed this with the client. They agree, correct? Number 6, as per requirements of the borough design standards, sidewalk is required to be installed around the perimeter of the site. The applicant is requesting a waiver. And why are you asking for a waiver?
Well, currently there's sidewalk that wraps around Washington Road right across the front of the site. It goes along the Johnson's Lane property frontage to the physical therapy building. We are looking to extend it along Johnson's Lane to the lot 1.02. So we'll have circulated sidewalk along the outskirts of the property.
So we're no longer asking for a waiver?
Mr. Chairman, let me just clarify. The ordinance requires parking adjacent to your parking stalls. So where you've got that 1 foot setback,
Oh.
technically you're supposed to have sidewalk there. But realistically, people aren't going to walk on the sidewalk. They're going to get out of their cars and walk toward the building. So
Correct.
I think justification is just based on the layout of your parking lot. It doesn't really make sense to have
Existing
that
condition
sidewalk
on the one lot, and we want to
with the
continue it
proposed, correct?
because of the constraints of the site.
Ju-
But we are
just-
agreeing, as long as we're talking about, it, we are agreeing to extend the sidewalk on Johnson.
Yes.
That was going to be my question. The sidewalk will go all the way to the adjacent property owner's property
Yes, it'll continue to the end of our property line.
toward Buddy's Tavern?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, what you're saying, the other half of the property, technically, you have that sidewalk that went all the way around. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Okay.
The existing parcel got a waiver when they got their original approval. This is requesting a similar waiver.
Number 7. Pursuant to borough ordinance, all parking lots are to be fully enclosed with either concrete or Belgian block curbing along their perimeter. The applicant is requesting a waiver. What is the reason for that?
Yeah, On the existing site, there is curb along the, I guess, next to the building and around that parking area. We are proposing curb along the northern end, our island, and then along the southern end. So what we're looking to do is not place curbing, which is no curbing existing on the easterly property that goes towards the school, because we have to keep positive drainage. Like I said, we have an existing edge of pave there, so we're looking to do the same thing here, so we don't cut off the drainage pattern.
It would be an impediment to stormwater.
Correct.
Number 9, as per borough ordinance requirements, a minimum of 1 off-street loading berth is required per building. This is an existing condition and is not proposed to be modified by this application. The applicant is requesting a waiver of this borough ordinance requirement. The reason for that is?
Yeah, they pretty predominantly have FedEx or UPS trucks come in, and they
Right.
could utilize a parking spot
Right.
to.
Right,
Drop.
the board heard the delivery testimony. There's no need for a loading space.
Mr. Smith, I think you skipped 8, and we appreciate you going through these line by line. It's very helpful, but I think you missed 8 on.
Well, then let me go
The
back
CME
to, and
report.
I'm sorry, that's old eyes.
That's no problem.
All right, so 8, in accordance with the borough ordinance, no parking area shall be constructed in the front yard setback area. The applicant is requesting a waiver, and of course, the existing lot, it's an existing condition.
Yeah, out along Washington Road, we have a parking space and a portion of another one that are within that 20-foot setback.
So we're asking to have the same.
Mr. Chairman, not an issue. That's been approved by board in the past. You've got an existing condition on the front lot, similar, so don't see a problem with that.
Okay, we did 9. Number 10, the existing physical therapy facility complies with the parking requirement of the borough ordinance. The applicant should further review the need for the additional 33 parking spaces. The applicant should also verify that no modifications of the in the operation of the existing facility are proposed. That last sentence has been testified to by Ms. Dunn, but the statement is, I think, after our earlier discussion, is no longer true. If you have
This was
8
based upon-
professionals,
This
we
was
need,
based upon the 15 that was
Yeah,
on the plan.
we need 40 spaces per the borough ordinance. And if you're kind enough to grant the 33, we'll have a total of
49.
49. So we would then be in compliance with the borough ordinance. Number 11, the possible elimination of the 6 angled parking spaces in the proposed parking lot should be further reviewed. This would allow a reduction in the number of design waivers being requested, the ability to provide more site landscaping, and increasing the buffer to the adjacent residential dwelling. It's very hard for us to say yes to the dress on that one because of the parking condition being so extreme. So,
Mr. Chairman, this comment was written based upon them needing 15 and proposing 49. We didn't understand why. Based upon what you heard this evening, it appears that 40 is required. You probably could still remove the 6 and address some of the other waivers you're going to hear about with landscaping, but based upon the testimony and the need for parking, you may no longer want to consider that. It appears that parking is a premium now, so you probably want to maximize it as opposed to addressing some of those other waivers, but that's, again, that's after your further testimony, you can decide.
so storm drainage system, item B, storm drainage system, number 1. The proposed site plan is not considered a major development since less than 1 acre of land disturbance and less than a 1/4 acre of additional impervious surfaces are proposed. Accordingly, the project is exempt from the water quantity, water quality, and recharge requirements of the stormwater control ordinance. And we agree with that comment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Item C, soil erosion and sediment control. The Borough of Sayreville has jurisdiction for review of the soil erosion and sediment control and is responsible for plan certification. All references to the Freehold Soil Conservation District should be removed from the soil erosion and sediment control plan in their notes and details. And we will comply with that.
Yes.
Number 2, the construction sequence should be revised to include building demolition. In addition, reference to detention facilities should be removed since they're not applicable to the project. We'll comply with that?
Yes.
And then the stabilized construction access deal should be revised to include filter fabric under the stone.
We'll comply.
Okay. Item D, landscaping and lighting. In accordance with the borough ordinance, at least 20% of the subject site shall consist of landscaped areas, and at least 5% of the required landscape area shall be along the right-of-way areas. The plans do not comply with this requirement. The applicant is requesting a waiver. And why are we requesting the waiver?
Yeah, on the 20%, we added islands. We got some green spaces in here. We have approximately 19%. And again, trying to maximize the parking. So we're 1% short. So we're asking for that de minimis waiver if we could. So this way we could keep the number of parking spaces we're proposing. And then with the 5% out along the front, again, we have the existing building and the existing parking there. So we're about 4% there existing. So that's, again, we have existing features out there that's why we're asking for that waiver as well.
Okay, and you're darn close. You're at 19.2%, I think
Yes.
was. Okay. Then number two, D2, in accordance with the borough ordinance, where a non-residential use abuts any residential use or residentially zoned lot, a 50-foot wide landscape buffer shall be provided. The southern portion of the site does not meet this requirement, and the applicant is requesting a waiver, and for obvious reasons. You wouldn't be able to build the project. You wouldn't be able to do the parking.
Yeah, with the existing pavement, it's about 4 feet off the property line there. So what we're proposing is we're moving the curb to 6.5 feet off. This way gives us a 6-foot landscaping bed to essentially put, and we're running a line of evergreens, junipers along that to give it a screen.
So just so I'm clear, you're increasing the
Yeah,
buffer
it's a couple
between,
feet, yes. So this way we can fit in the evergreen screening.
what's the existing buffer right now?
It's about 4 feet with, and it's just pretty much dirt or grass that are out there right now. So like I said, we're adding a couple feet and then putting the landscaping in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. D3, top of the next page, page 3. In accordance with the borough ordinance, a minimum of 10% of all proposed parking areas shall be landscaped about the interior. The applicant is requesting a waiver from this requirement. Why?
Yeah, currently right now with what we have and what we're proposing island wise, we're at 9%. I mean, we're close. Again, we're like de minimis. So we're looking to max out the parking. So we're asking for that small waiver on that.
It's all about the parking.
Yes.
Number 4, in accordance with the borough ordinance, all off-street parking areas shall be provided with landscaping around the perimeter. The proposed parking area does not comply with this requirement. The applicant is requesting a waiver. What are we doing and why the waiver?
Yeah, we're proposing landscaping along the Johnson Lane right away and then along the Sudley property line. Unfortunately, where we have that 1 foot offset, it's impossible to put any landscaping in there. The good thing is along the school property, there is some decent landscaping screening there. So it's kind of like a natural buffer, but we just don't have the room to install any
And
landscaping.
that's where we're asking for the waiver, right?
Yes,
And that's a continuation of the existing
Existing,
condition on the
correct.
first lot, correct?
yes.
Okay. Number 5, the tree preservation plan indicates a deficiency of 37 replacement trees. The applicant will be required to contribute to the borough tree bank to address this deficiency. And of course, whatever we're short, we understand we have to comply, correct?
Correct.
And is there going to be any effort to find any more spots for trees?
Probably not. We don't want to have overgrowth out here to like kill off each other. So we have them pretty well spaced where we could.
Okay, so the waiver is requested. And number 7, the need for shields on the proposed lights to prevent off-site spillage should be further reviewed.
Yeah, we're providing house side shield on the new lights.
All right, so is this a situation where you're going to work with the borough engineer to get the best shielding you can get?
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Smith, I think you conflated 6 and 7. You missed 6. You went right to 7.
So I had 2 cataracts removed this month.
That's no problem.
And I'm supposed to have better vision. What happened? So number 6, we need to go back to, right? In accordance with the borough ordinance, the maximum lighting intensity at all property lines should be a 1/2 foot candle. The applicant is requesting a waiver from this requirement for the proposed site lighting. Would you respond to that, Mr. Lane?
Yeah, the 2 lights is the one existing that's there now and across from the physical therapy building. But in keeping in line with the parking layout, we're putting a second light out along that property line next to the school. So the backside of that, we're providing shields. We're getting it down to about 1.2 foot candle. Again, with the landscaping that's there, it'll probably cut it even less if you really took into account for like what's being planted there. And under the existing conditions, when we looked at the existing light, because we're going to flip this one to LED with the house light shield, that was roughly about 2.5. So we're actually cutting it back from what it was to 1.2. So it's close. The 0.5 foot candle is within a couple feet of the property line. But as it cuts off.
Section E, parking and road improvements. Number one, information on the existing number of employees, hours of operation of the existing business should be provided. In addition, information on traffic patterns, deliveries, garbage, pickup, et cetera, should be provided. And I think we already did that in Ms. Dunn's testimony. Number two, the applicant's engineer should further review the maneuverability and turning movements of garbage collection and recycling vehicles and their ability to access the proposed trash enclosure location and the potential conflicts with passenger vehicles maneuvering the proposed drive aisle and using adjacent parking stalls. If you would respond to that.
Yeah, I was out there today, so I know the existing dumpster sits like kind of right at the, between the common property line at the rear there. So what I believe the garbage truck's doing is probably coming off of Johnson's Lane, coming down the drive aisle to pick up the dumpster and then going out into Washington Road, which they'll continue to do that as we keep this driveway open.
Number two,
Oh, there's not? Okay, so I stand corrected. They get put out at the curb?
yeah, probably be a good idea for the lady who's speaking, who is going to get up shortly to talk, but maybe to reemphasize that so it gets on the record. I don't know how much the court stenographer could pick up on that one. You got it? Okay, and if you just identify your name for the record. Oh, it's Ms. Dunn. I didn't realize that.
Just so I can put this down, I think you indicated that the trash cans were put at the curb and picked up.
Correct.
So the
Great.
truck does not have to go to the park.
Great. So I think that's number two. Item three, the applicant's engineer should indicate any required signage and striping of fire zones as may be required by the borough fire official. Note indicating same should be added to the plans, and obviously we're going to comply, correct?
Correct.
Number four, the pavement section parking lots detail should be revised to indicate a minimum of 4 inches thick bituminous stabilized base course, parentheses, I think I-2, and a minimum of a 2-inch thick bituminous concrete surface course, parentheses, I-5, in accordance with the borough ordinance requirements for parking lots subject to SU 30 truck traffic. We will comply with that?
Yes.
Okay. And number five, the concrete sidewalk standard concrete curb, 18-inch detail should be revised in accordance with the borough standards.
Yes.
We will comply. And that's the end of Mr. Cornell's memo. All right, with your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, we'll go to Mr. Fowler, the planner's memo next. All right.
Yes, please.
So for the record, Mr. Lane, are you familiar with the memo of Mike Fowler to the planning board dated July 28th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. Section A, the project description. I don't think it needs a response. Existing conditions, B. I believe that, again, it's descriptive. I don't believe it requires it.
Probably going to jump to E, general comments. I
Okay.
think 1, 2, and 3 have already addressed what I was before.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Fowler. All right, number 4. It is recommended, this is E4. It is recommended that directional arrows be placed at each driveway's intersection with the adjacent right-of-way. Directional signage should also be addressed. Would you respond, Mr. Lane?
We will add. We'll comply.
Will comply. Number 5, it is recommended that a matching radius be added to the south side of the one-way drive on Johnson's Lane.
We agree to make that change.
Will comply. All right. Number 6, the C, SEA, the sea green junipers proposed as a buffer along the southern property line have a mature width of 6 feet and the planting area is approximately 6.5 feet wide. It appears that the adjacent parking spaces will allow vehicles to overhang into the buffer area, which may damage the plantings. Bumper stops are recommended for that row of perpendicular parking spaces to hold vehicle overhang to the curb line.
We agree to add them.
Number 7, the applicant should address any changes in site signage since the prior approvals. It appears that there are no freestanding signs.
Correct. No
No
signs.
changes are proposed. Okay. Number 8, it should be noted that the applicant is subject to the state law requiring that a percentage of parking area be equipped with EV charging stations. The location of the EV charging stations should be indicated to the board. Would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, I believe that what we'll ultimately do is add charging stations along the front, one for the handicap space and one for a regular space. Because I believe under state statute, we need at least one, but then we also want to provide one for the handicap space also.
And that you believe that that is in conformity with the state statute?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Fowler.
Plan currently is showing 3, but you have to.
Yeah, we're gonna take those out and, like I said, move them towards the closer to the building. This way we get one for the handicap spot, and then since we're running electric there, we'll put one for the regular stall.
Number 9, the applicant shall recognize that it is subject to any applicable affordable housing fees or their obligations per the borough's affordable housing ordinance. And we agree and will comply with that, correct?
Yes.
And then number 10, the applicant should provide adequate testimony to justify any variance or waiver relief. The testimony should include any hardship created by features on the site, better planning alternatives being proposed and the benefits thereof, advancing the purpose of the MLUL, any possible detrimental impacts on neighboring properties, and the impacts on the borough's master plan. We have a planner available, and ask that number 10 be held until we get the planner up. All right. And did we miss any memos? Okay, so Mr. Lane is available for questions.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Lane? Mr. Lane, just so I'm clear, when you're traveling on Washington Road, the entrance to the building, that is a two-way entrance, correct?
Yes.
If you proceed on Washington and make the right on Johnson, the first driveway into the building, going down Johnson's, you come up Washington, make the right?
Yep.
Go down John, okay, the first driveway, that's a one-way driveway?
Yes.
That's only going out onto Johnson's Lane?
Correct.
Okay, and then the next driveway that
This will be a two-way.
that's gonna be a two-way. And it's wide enough sufficiently for both ingress and egress?
Yeah,
at
we
that
follow,
point?
like I said, we follow the 24-foot through and around.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 6 diagonal spots, I understand the need to maximize the parking. My only concern is it going to be too congested in that parking area for folks that are coming there because they have physical ailments? They might be on crutches, wheelchair. I know you have handicap spaces, but a lot of people are going there because of some physical malady, and my concern is the parking lot, is it going to be too crowded with those 6 diagonal spots?
Well, if we take out the 6 diagonal, the typical, we have 18-foot deep stalls with 24-foot wide drive aisles. That's kind of like a standard. So those are okay. The angled spaces, they're 18 feet deep, same thing, 9-foot wide. And we actually have the drive aisle a little wider. I think under 45-degree angle parking, they request 15. So we went to 18. So it gives them a little bit more room to maneuver in and around here to come around the side of the building. So I think we have adequate room. And again, it's 6 spaces, so it's not too intense. And once you come in, you can only come out, so it's not conflicting with two-way traffic.
Any other questions? Go ahead, James.
For the angled parking, you said 15 feet is a requirement for the driveway, and you're using 18?
Yes.
15 or 18 inclusive of a walking path for
It's
pedestrians?
the width of the pavement, and then there's about a 4-foot sidewalk along the side of the building.
So you're From here, it looks like your arrow includes the walkway or doesn't include the walkway.
No, it doesn't include the walkway. It goes to the edge of the curb
So
that's
you have
there.
18 plus the 4
Plus
feet
the four-
walkway.
Yes.
Is there any additional entrances or exits being added to the back of the building,
I believe it's just the patients coming through the main entrance and the,
northwest corner?
Yeah.
Chair, is there going to be any signage for the one-way parking, one-way driveway?
yeah, we'll have to add it out here. Do not enter and one way down.
The sidewalk, in front of the building, it's on the west side, the southern end of it. People respect her, so people are in the parking lot on that side, or they can spaces are that they can just come onto the sidewalk there, if there are.
Yeah, we can work in a depression there so that it's a smooth transition. Yeah.
You have a walker or whatever, they don't go around.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, that'll make, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, no more questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lane.
Thank you.
Okay, our last witness, Mr. Chairman, is our planner, who is our mystery planner. And I don't know the gentleman. I think he's filling in for Mr. McDonough. Who are you?
Yes, Alex McLean.
Alex McLean, grab the microphone. Alex,
evening, Mr. McLean.
I'd ask that Alex be sworn so they can give testimony.
Sir, if you can state your name, spell your last name, and give us your professional address.
Yes, it's Alexander McLean. Last name spelled McClean. Professional address is 137 Heckle Street, Unit 7, Belleville, New Jersey.
Apple Street, where was that?
Belleville, yeah.
Raise your right hand. Swear the testimony you give before this board will be the whole truth.
I do.
Your witness.
Mr. McLean, for the record, by whom were you employed and in what capacity?
Well, I'm employed by the city of Jersey City as an assistant director of affordable housing, but I'm also in my own capacity as a licensed professional planner with my own practice.
Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, give the benefit, the board the benefit of your credentials as a professional planner.
So I have practiced planning originally from in New York City for about 5 years. And for the past 3 years, I've been in New Jersey in private practice as a environmental planner and currently as the assistant director of affordable housing
In
Jersey City.
Jersey City. Have you appeared before other planning boards and zoning boards?
I have not.
None.
No.
Okay, so this is his first time. So be gentle. All right, so on that note, we're asking you to come forward to identify the waivers we're requesting and justification and the variances we're requesting and the justification under the municipal land use law. So the board, if they want to, can grant the relief.
All right, understood.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, let's make
What's your
it.
educational background and your licensing?
I have a master's in city regional planning from Rutgers. And I have an AICP and I'm licensed by the State Board of Professional Planners.
Your license is a good standing in the state of New Jersey.
It is, yeah,
That'll be first time for everyone.
exactly.
It has to be accepted, Mr. Chairman.
Does anyone on the board have any questions with the qualifications? No, okay, we accept.
Never gonna have to say this is the first time.
We accept. Congratulations, your first time.
I appreciate it.
Take it away, Mr. McLean.
All right, so I guess I won't burden the board with by going over the basics of the project, but I guess I'll just jump into the planning and zoning considerations.
Please.
All right, so the zone that the project is located in is in a B1 neighborhood business district, which permitted uses include a wide range of businesses, including retail zoning, retail, restaurant, office, gyms, the physical therapy business, parking lot permitted in this zone. And so no D variances are requested for this application. And so far as zoning conformance, the project substantially complies with all bulk requirements, lot dimensions, building height, building coverage, importantly, lot coverage, all comply. And as far as the areas of the ordinance that the applicant is seeking relief from, there are 7, obviously, the building setback, curb cut setback, a lot line, parking setback, number of loading spaces, front yard, landscaping area, lighting levels, and landscaping area. As So the applicant is seeking C variance relief, and all relief is justified under both the C1 hardship and the C2 balancing provisions of the law. C2 purposes of the MOU, you're required to advance the purposes of the MOUL, but by advancing it by deviating from the ordinance, and the benefits would have to outweigh any detriments, and we believe that this application does that. Justifications under the C1 hardship relief relates to land and the structures that are lawfully existing thereon. Existing site conditions creates hardship and practical difficulties in terms of district conformance. The C2 balancing, the benefits of the application as a whole substantially outweigh any detriment, as mentioned before. The project benefits include parking capacity to meet actual parking demand of this use. The nature of the use caters to injured and mobility impaired persons, and is in good planning to have parking available in close proximity to the building. As far as the purposes of the MOUL to be promoted by this application, we are looking at purpose A, to promote the general welfare, purpose G, to provide a variety of uses according to the needs of the citizens of the state. Purpose I, to promote desirability and visual environment through the landscaping that was went over by the engineer. Purpose M, to provide efficient land use by increasing the parking capacity to support the demand on the site. The project will put underutilized land to productive use and give it a fresh look. All relief will be granted without substantial detriment to the public or the zoning plan. The applicant has provided solid testimony. The site will flow, function, operate safely, efficiently, without any substantial danger or nuisances to the public, and it substantially complies with the zoning criteria and the relief to have a minimal, if any, impairment to the zoning scheme. I also wanted to just point out a couple things to support the applicant's testimony earlier. So just going to point to the master plan reexamination from this year. They pointed to a couple census data points. So there was a population increase from 2010 to 2020 of 2,641 persons, approximately, according to the census. And as far as the uses on the existing site, the daycare and then the physical therapy business, they obviously cater to two different audiences. So you got obviously small children and adults. So for persons under 5 years old, in 2010, the population was estimated at 2,816, and you saw a reduction of 130 persons in 2020. And when you look at persons, the age cohort for 55 to 64, you saw an increase of 1,872 persons. And you look at persons 65 and older, there was an increase of 240. So you're obviously seeing the needs of the community are changing. So it's appropriate that you're seeing the demand and the request for the parking change. The other thing is transportation. So you have limited mass transit access. So you have the B131 and the A15. And you also have, and that's a couple blocks away from the site. And then there's the issue of the vehicle use in the area. So the 2021 ACS 5-year data noted that 20% of persons in the community own one vehicle, approximately 40% own two vehicles, and another 40%, and approximately 40% own three vehicles. So it's a heavy auto usage, and which makes sense that we need to expand the parking for this site.
So in your professional opinion, there's no harm to the master plan or zoning ordinance if the board should adopt and grant these waivers and variances, correct?
No, and actually, goal 5 of the 2013 master plan points out that, I can just point it out. Goal 5 indicates that it's the town's goal is to encourage maintenance of existing business community and provide for desirable new commercial development. So I think this application does that.
Great. Mr. McLean's available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Anyone on the board have a question for Mr. McLean? I have a few questions, and you might not be able to answer, Mr. McLean. I apologize, they popped in my head, but am I correct that the establishment, the business is currently using the adjoining property where the schoolhouse was for parking right now?
Mr. Lane, would you come up or Ms.
No.
Dunn? Ms. Dunn.
They're not using any of those spots.
Did you-
Yeah.
Did you hear the chairman's question?
Yes.
Okay.
And are the patients using what is existing now? Yes.
Yeah, because just I'm just wondering what the plan is if the application is granted and you start demolition and construction in that adjoining lot. Now you've got less parking and it might even impact your existing parking. How long is the construction gonna? Yep, what's the plan during construction about? Yep. Okay,
So the plan, my understanding is the plan that we would have valet parking and then have to create, be able to provide that service for our patients and be able to park off-site and be able to manage that. That's the plan.
Just like physical therapy in general, short-term pain for long-term gain. Mr. Lane, or one of the other, might be our contractor, earlier tonight, we asked the question, how long is the demolition going to take? And the answer to that was 3 weeks. 3 weeks is the answer. So for 3 weeks, we're gonna have to do that.
for 3 weeks to demolish the building and then install the parking area?
Is that right for both? That's the best. guess.
Okay, and you're gonna have valet parking?
It's expensive. We investigated. It's like $800 a day.
Patients will get
Yes.
spoiled.
But yes, but
You got
how
tips?
else can we function?
No.
You have to be able to provide something for them.
Where are you valeting them to?
So the issue is that has not been completely decided. We are actually parked right now across on the open lot, Bailey's open lot, across from Buddy's. That's where staff parks. So that would be an option, or we'd have to search out within the community, being able to rent space for a period of time.
And I'm just wondering, who's gonna do the valeting? You have to have
No, we'll have a company.
a company, okay.
That's why I know how expensive it is, because we interviewed for that. And I don't know, I think it's that expensive to have them.
Okay,
It's just so
I
expensive.
was just wondering what it was gonna look like during,
It's not going to be pretty,
yeah, okay.
okay? And but for the patients, if they can pull up and someone, they takes their car, that's how it.
Yeah, I guess that's.
And you have to have someone certified to be able to do that. You just can't have, like, my 20-year-old son take the car.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a whole host of other
Yeah.
regulations and laws that apply that aren't concerning planning, so understood. All right, does anyone have any questions? I'm sorry, Mr. McLean, it popped in my head and
Not a problem.
no questions? Okay.
So I understand that there will be lighting, obviously, that's in that infrastructure. We have cameras that face that area as well.
We don't have cameras.
There are cameras, okay.
Lighting-
If that's the requirement,
No,
obviously.
I'm just curious.
The lighting's not gonna impact the adjoining, I know there's an adjoining house right next to the schoolhouse that you're knocking down.
So let me get this explain it. Explain, talk about the lighting.
Oh, too much lighting there? Okay,
No, we'll have a house side shield. We set it off on a diamond island and it'll comply with that 0.5 foot candle at the property line there. And then we also have the evergreens going in, which will help as the light spills down to cut it off too.
all right. No more questions, sorry, Mr. McLean, none directly at you, but no more questions for us. Thank you very much for your first testimony.
Chairman, that concludes our case.
Okay.
We'll be hearing from- I'm sorry.
We do have a
I got it. I'm sorry about that. I got carried away. I got a little too casual. So in any case, that concludes our case. You are going to have one member of the public coming forward who we talked to prior to the meeting, who has some concerns about how the foundation is filled. And I'm not going to speak for her. She's going to come up and then I'll respond to it. But at the end of the day, this is not a fly-by-night outfit. They've been in Sayreville for 30 years, providing great services to the residents of Sayreville. And we think that what's proposed is not a crazy expansion or a crazy anything. It's to make sure that the operation works safely. But let me get out of the way of the neighbors, and when she's finished, we'll respond.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to open up to the public.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Anyone from the public would like to be heard on this application? Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Chairman Mueller and professionals and board members. My name is Karen Bailey Bieberts.
I have to swear you in, so
Absolutely.
if you could state your name and spell your last name and give us.
I was
your
working
address.
on it. Yeah. Karen Bailey Bieberts. I reside at 9 Burlington Road. I am the owner of the adjacent property on Johnson's Lane, 279 Johnson's Lane. Yes, sir. Yes, I do. Okay. Bebert. Got it? Okay. All right. So I have a question. We have a very large room full of professionals on both sides. And I don't believe I heard anyone mention the fact that that property is about 3 foot higher than my property next door. So is that in the plans indicated at all? Okay, so my one concern was drainage from their property to ours. Secondly, maybe Mr. Lane can answer my question regarding in between the two properties. Will there be any fencing put there, or is it just going to be a row of evergreen type buildings, trees? Sure.
Do you want to give a microphone so we can?
Currently, the proposal right now is just for the evergreen shrubs. There's no proposal for a fence at the moment.
Okay. There does reside there my sister, her daughter, and 2 little children. So they are 8 and 4. So, and it is a residential. That also is a B1, that lot. So there is a residence there currently. So yeah, I have concerns of people pulling up there and just, privacy concerns. Another thing I have a concern with is, and I had asked Mr. Lane this earlier, dynamic impacting or compounding or whatever you all engineers call this. So normally when a basement is filled in, maybe Mr. Cornell can answer this for me. Is there a set amount of time after the hole is filled in that it must sit before anything is put on it? I believe there was for like a building, like when that was done up the corner. I remember talking very frequently actually to the property manager, to the construction manager there, because I walked my little one to school all the time. And he said, I said, wow, finally, you guys are getting started and all this back in the day when they built there. And they had said that you had to wait 1 year for the settlement of whatever. I'm not an engineer. I'm just so I'm just curious to see if there's any amount of time before anything can be parked on that, so to speak. So that was one of my concerns. The big thing with the dynamic compacting or whatever the J is, what's the professional term?
I think you're referring to dynamic compaction. And typically, if you have poor soil conditions and you want to go through and compress them, you'll use dynamic compaction.
Okay.
Here, I don't think you're going to have to deal with that. You're basically demolishing a building and you're going to fill in the foundation. They're going to have to get permits from the Borough Construction Office. They'll have to witness. I'm not aware of any long-term requirement for that being open before they can fill it in. So I don't think that would be an issue.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel their pain. I'm not here to, I think it's a great thing. I think it would actually be more advantageous to my property, but I do have to be concerned about the integrity of my property. Like what happens if my 1930 something Bob's house gets a crack in the foundation that I didn't put in there? So what happens? Like he could say, oh, no problem, but if there's nothing in writing, there's no guarantees for me. And I don't think that I should have to compromise the integrity of my property. Literally, the foundation of that house that's going to be taken down and the foundation of my house there is about 20 feet away. Very, very close. And again, so right at the borderline here, at the borderline between the two properties here is like, it goes down literally like 2 to 3 feet. That property is probably higher than my property. So I didn't know if that is being considered with respect to drainage, because I heard many people talking about drainage and stuff and variances and all that. So how is that going to impact my property with the current plan?
Mr. Lane, are you able to address that
Yes.
drainage issue?
Yeah, currently under the existing conditions, it does, there's no curbing, so this could free flow and go onto the neighboring property. What we are proposing is curbing along there. So this will get cut off. And like I said, we have a high point down the middle, roughly where the existing house is. So a portion will come down the driveway and out to Johnson's Lane. I believe there's an inlet right out here. And then the rest to the rear will go out towards the school property. So there is going to be a curb put in here, so nothing will be shuttled off onto the property other than the green area, which we have the evergreen shrubs, which will, take some of the rainwater that drops over there.
But again, no, I'm sorry.
Next question. This might be more for the contractor or the engineer. After you pave the lot, will you guys be using a dynamic roller or
You'd have to talk to the contractor on that one.
should we bring him up and swear him in?
If you feel it necessary. What, is he, Mr. Smith, could we hear from the contractor or?
Well, this American board wants to hear from anybody. They're going to hear from whoever they want. I do think, though, that he's brand new to the job. Do you feel like, can you answer that question?
Yeah.
All right, come on up. Let's get you sworn in so you can testify. Okay, would you say your name for the board?
My name is Tim Cochran, Cochran. My business address is 720 Bellevue Avenue in Hamilton, New Jersey. Yes,
You're part of the GC firm for
Yes.
this project, and you're familiar with it?
yes.
Okay. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, they will be using a roller. It probably will be a dynamic, I'm sure. So you will get some vibration from it, but the biggest, it's not a big parking lot, so it's not going to be huge. It'll be probably less than 6 feet in width.
Cochran, is there anything that could be done to protect the adjacent house from the demolition of the existing schoolhouse?
I don't see a reason for that. We're going to be far enough away from the property line itself that we wouldn't have to, we could put barriers up, but as far as compaction, there's really nothing that you could do.
Nothing you could do to stop the vibration, right? But
Correct.
You can monitor it if there's a concern.
Yes.
So, again, it's not concerning who's paying for what, but there could be pre-construction photos taken, your foundation assessed, your cracks monitored, a seismograph
And
to make sure you don't.
Mr. Allegri's right on the money. I actually have personal experience with compaction. All right, 2 experiences that you should hear about. One was with Costco in Monroe, building a huge facility. They used dynamic compaction that was monstrous. The thing that they were dropping on the ground was like the size of an elephant. And adjacent property owners indicated that they had property damage. The ultimate proof, one way or another, was to see whether or not there were cracks in the wall. All right, the claim was that there was damage to the foundation. What Costco did, which was brilliant, they made sure that their dynamic compaction company had the appropriate insurance to adequately compensate or do repairs. In my case, I have a place down the shore, and the house next door was being rebuilt because of Sandy, and they decided to raise it up. So the guys with the pylons came in to bang them down into the ground. I ended up with cracks in my bathroom tiles, and they wouldn't answer the phone. So I sued them in small claims court, and they ended up paying for the repairs to the tiles. But I think the answer to the public's question here is we need to make sure that whoever does our compaction has the appropriate insurance. And the other thing I would suggest, which is what Mr. Allegre said, take pictures. You need to get out and take pictures of the foundation walls, date them, so that if you do get cracks in the walls, you can say, here was on September of 2023, here's what the walls look like. And 1 year later, on September of 2024, I now have cracks in my walls. Right? That's the proof that ultimately wins in court. So, I mean, there is a way to handle it.
Would you be willing to do a pre-demolition inspection report of the adjoining?
Would you allow us to come into the house to take pictures? Would that be acceptable?
Yes, that would be fine.
All right, so we'll come in, we'll take pictures of the walls, and we'll also share the pictures so everybody gets them. And we'll also make sure our contractor has the appropriate insurance.
Yes.
And I would like to receive a copy of that.
And any existing cracks that are found.
That would be
The
protected.
existing cracks are not covered
No, but existing
unless they're
cracks-
bigger.
Existing cracks, I'm a general contractor, so usually existing cracks. You have to put telltales on both sides of the cracks, measure distance across the crack, make sure there's no changes.
It sounds
Correct.
like a lot of work that I shouldn't have to entail you expense for, as I am not initiating this project. And again, you did have two good examples regarding crack foundations. And how further away than 20 feet were those buildings for that dynamic compact?
Side yards are 5 feet. to be sure.
Yeah, that they're.
So any construction going on any adjacent property, whether it's a residential home, business would still have protection. So, I'm sorry, any construction adjacent to your property would still require compaction, whether it's a business or whether it's a residential unit. You know, you're going to compact the ground to build a foundation on it. So you shouldn't be prohibited from doing it, but someone needs to make sure that there is no issues.
Right. I'm just
I
trying
think
to-
Mr. Bieber raises some very valid concerns for a property owner, I think. Understandably, there will be compassion required on any adjacent property. Right, Mr. Bieber and I would share the same.
Even their own building.
And we're willing to address it. You're not hearing us
Well, they're on a
resist.
slab, actually. So, but you still like, Mr. Smith says, you know, it's fine. It's fine.
No mas. We agree.
And you know, Jim, appropriate coverage for this. I'm not a GC or contractor or construction person, but what would you think is appropriate?
My limits are sky high as a contractor.
Yeah.
Because of the work we do. Typically, we're in, but our requirements are way different from.
Yeah.
commercial.
Okay.
Just getting the work done ahead of time. Maybe someone employs a professional company to come in and do an assessment. Probably your best bet against it.
Yeah, I mean, you can have insurance, the greatest insurance, but who's to say that was there or that wasn't there?
That's why,
Now, we're-
that's why the picture.
That's why you have the pre-construction photographs that are taken and
To
measurements.
document that.
So there'd be a licensed structural engineer to come in, do a pre-demolition inspection of the home, and Ms. Bieber would allow that to occur so that there's no issues regarding the demolition?
Yes.
Sure, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the typical limit that you cover on the insurance?
That I don't know. I'm not the office guy.
Okay. And would you typically name as an additional insured, or that wouldn't be necessary here?
I think what they do is they ensure the work to be done. And if there's any damage, they are the one who received the claims and have to pay them off if they are correct. But I think the insured party is actually the contractor, because the contractor is the one who gets sued.
Okay. And you'll provide the adjoining landowner with a copy of certificate of
Yes,
insurance?
that's no problem.
Okay. What about the issue of potential fence? Is that something that we can do?
The issue is drainage. Mr. Lane said, we're going to put a curb. Whatever drainage she's getting now should be stopped.
I believe there's an existing fence there already too.
It's kind of a temporary off the back door, again, for privacy,
Okay.
because as things got busier there. I have little kids growing up. I lived there for 30 years. more things, but I'll be very brief. The timeline for the project, I believe you referred to as 3 weeks to demolition and then another few weeks to do the parking lot. So again, my, just curious, does any of that have to settle down before that's capped with pavements? And then you asked about occupancy before, and I don't think the question was answered. Doesn't the fire code have an occupancy? That they did in my commercial building when it was running, so.
That is what it is. I mean.
Yeah, just curious, yeah, okay. The only other thing I wanted to mention was the parking situation. And I know it's very difficult for them. It's going to be difficult during this construction period. So I had spoke to Pat earlier, and I think Mr. Smith and the contractor might have even been there. I have no problem if they want to arrange something, on my property in the meantime. I understand that the streets across in the development there are all residential permit parking, except as Pat mentioned, Robin Place, which is a pretty steep hill and whatever, I mean, if I can be of help that way, I have no problem. But I think that's about it. My number one concern though is getting something guaranteed because I don't think my insurance should have to take on the risk for this that is not coming from me. And other than that, I'm good to go. So.
Just understand, this board can't give you any guarantee. That's not
Right.
their function.
Right.
You have remedies.
Well, I'm hoping they'll be good neighbors, like I've been for the last 10 years, renting them
No
place
doubt they're
spaces
excellent
for inadequate parking, so.
Well, I think that the structural engineer pre-demolition report, along with the certificate of insurance that they're going to provide you, I think will
I think
create.
that would be great, yeah.
um,
So, I mean,
so
that's a guarantee that that will happen, or that's a
think
pretty
they've
big step.
Indicated they're
That's a
going to do
pretty-
that, right,
I
Mr.
would
Smith?
appreciate that.
That would be
Yeah.
a condition of approval, man.
Great.
Yeah, that would be a condition of the resolution. of
Okay.
approval.
All right, well,
If
very
the board
good
were
then.
to
Thank you. I mean, good luck.
And just so we're clear that
Mm.
fence, the existing fence between your property and theirs, that will be removed once the trees go up and the curbing, is that correct? Do you know?
Yes.
Mr. Lane? Okay.
Okay. And are any of those trees going to be taken down in between? Because there is that whole row is lined, but I guess it's kind of weird, the property line, there's no pattern. So the maple trees are all going to stay there?
Yeah, I don't think we had a proposal of taking those down.
Okay.
No, yeah.
There's nothing that's coming out from there. It's the trees that you refer to are like the ones that are in front of the.
It's right in front of the
structure.
building, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very
And
much.
I assume you'll be notified when they're going to do the demolition. I think they have to pull a demolition permit from the borough
Okay.
and there'll be notice given and whatnot. I assume.
Okay.
But it
We'll
seems
see it
like,
when the trucks roll in, which is, yeah, like even the construction wise, because it's very tight there. There's even like construction vehicles, there's enough for all that and business to go on and everything, I'm assuming.
I don't know how it's gonna,
This board doesn't have to worry about.
Okay.
But
I don't know.
that's-
This is my first planning board meeting, so.
yeah, we,
That's first year of the gala.
Right.
we get mislabeled as construction, code enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera. There's only certain things we have control over. So from
Yeah,
the planning aspect, it seems that the concerns you raised are being addressed by the applicant, which
Yeah,
we're,
and that's awesome. I
appreciative.
appreciate that. Yeah,
So,
very much
uh,
appreciate it.
all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Is there anyone else from the public here or online who would like to be heard on the application? Hearing and seeing none, is there an application to close to the public?
Move and close the public portion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Smith, any final comment?
Attorney, just to mention that the board has jurisdiction, we properly noticed and served. So I
No,
might as well just remember it at the end.
you forgot to ask, no, we gotta do this all again. The Board has jurisdiction.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
Mr.
Is there-
Chairman, but before we entertain the motion, if it's possible, if I can ask a question, if hopefully you don't mind.
Sure.
I really want to thank, the neighboring resident and business, for expressing their concerns regarding this project. I do want to confirm if the applicant did touch on, and I apologize if they did, but the traffic impact for the demolition that's proposed, and also to see if there's, I think there was also additional comments from, I think the new, the gentleman who, this is his first planning board from the Jersey City area. I think he mentioned that, this proposed, application also might even align with our long-term development goals. But I wanted to see if they will be willing to kind of confirm how, if that's the case. So I think it's kind of a twofold question, just more details for the public record on the traffic impact for this demolition and how this aligns with our development or our redevelopment goals moving forward long-term.
Councilman, you're just talking about while the demolition is going on, not the
Yeah,
traffic.
more
generated.
specifically to the demolition. Yeah, more specifically to demolition.
I mean, I presume that will be governed by the Sayreville Police Department, the building department, in terms of how it is handled. The applicant will, I'm sure, comply with anything that the Borough of Sayreville or the police department, the fire department, or any of the borough officials require.
Okay, just to confirm it, they didn't, as we were
Valet
listening.
system with regard to the patients during the construction period. We think that's the safest way to do it. You heard the outrageous costs that were associated, that were pointed out by Ms. Dunn, but it's a necessary way to keep it safe. So that's the plan, the valet service.
So Councilman, I don't know if you heard all that, but it
I-
seems like the testimony or the response was that, I presume you heard the valet parking situation.
I remember that portion now.
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing it to my remembrance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But your other question regarding how, from a planning aspect, how this fits into the master plan, is that what your
I think
question
I heard a
was?
comment towards that, but I wanted to confirm it if that was the case from our applicant.
Mr. McLean, do you want to address that? Okay.
So the 2013 master plan, goal 5 of the master plan, it calls for encouraging maintenance of the existing business community and to provide for desirable new commercial development. So, I went over the population trends. There's been a decline over 10 years from the 2010 census to the 2020 census in children under the age of 5, and you had an increase in the age cohort from 55 to 64 and 65 and over. So, you're seeing a natural progression of, the community is getting a little older, and obviously, those two uses are competing. You got daycare and physical therapy. So it seems clear that, just like the population, the demand's going to change. So, the need to provide for parking, especially in a community that's dependent on personal vehicles, makes sense.
So we have an aging community and physical therapy is an unfortunate necessity of growing old.
We are, yeah, as a country, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate that
question?
perspective. Yeah, I wanted to confirm where you're heading to with but I appreciate you clarifying. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman.
Any more questions, Councilman?
No, I think those are the two for now. And again, I appreciate the residents, or I guess at this point, the resident who brought up the other concerns regarding how the demolition may be of impact. And I'm glad that there was dialogue, and I think we reached additional conclusions on that. So no more from my side.
Great. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, so is there a motion regarding the application?
I would like to make a motion to accept the application and
With-
the agreements to monitor the adjacent property,
And all the other conditions?
as well as those.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
I did.
Roll call. Mr. Allegra,
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan,
Yes.
Councilman Onoha,
Yes.
Ms. Pulowski,
Yes.
Mr. Spizzato,
As a grateful recipient of
Feel free to call me back in hockey goal year again. My response is yes.
Chairman Muller,
Yes.
application approved.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, your clients, for considering all the concerns we had. We appreciate it. You too. Okay, so I think we need to open the meeting now to the public in general. So is there a motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone from the public would like to speak?
Seeing and hearing no one, is there an application to close?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so old business, new business, administrative matters?
Our next meeting is August 16th. Jay?
Mr. Chairman, you do not have any applications scheduled for that meeting, so if you wanted to cancel.
Do we have a motion to adjourn the August 16th meeting? All in
All in
favor?
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, so that's canceled.
Motion to adjourn this meeting. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, everyone, have a good night.
See you after Labor Day.
Enjoy.
Yep.
Take care, everyone.
Enjoy your summers.
Rest of your summer.